welcome. My name is Jess, and you're listening to Legaltini, your very own sip of law school. The goal of this podcast is to give you just a taste of what it's like going to law school. Whether you're considering applying to law school, you're already attending, you're the loved one of someone attending law school, or you just want to follow my journey, I'm so glad you're here. You can also follow me on Instagram at Legaltini_podcast, or check out my website, Legaltini.com. If you like the podcast, don't forget to rate, review, and subscribe. Grab your Legaltini and let's take a sip. Hello and welcome back to Legaltini. This week we will be talking about staying organized during stressful and challenging times in your life. And law school happens to be one of those times. Actually, in thinking about this podcast, I was trying to think of how to explain law school and just the crazy that it is and the feeling that it is. And I kept coming back to this feeling of just being in a river where you're just moving. All of a sudden it's happening. The dam is, opened up or whatever, and like water rushes in. You're just moving. There is no stopping this train. And you can either flounder in that for a really long time and try to, you're sort of splashing around and doing all these things to try to get on top of everything. Or you can sort of just like allow the movement of the river to carry you and, obviously stabilize, get your wits about you, but don't worry so much about like, how fast am I going and how, what am I doing that's different than someone else and how am I getting ahead? Just focus on staying above water and focus on, getting your sort of bearings. And then you can think about, okay, how can I move faster? How can I be more efficient with this? How can I really excel in what I'm doing? But initially, when you like get dumped into a river that's moving really fast, think of like whitewater rafting. You want to just stay alive. You want to stay above water. You want to figure out what it takes to survive here. And then you can sort of add on, okay, maybe I'll use a paddle to like go a little bit faster. And maybe, I don't know, this metaphor might not be perfect for you, but it kind of works in my mind as far as once the semester starts, everything just starts moving and everything is going quicker than what you're sort of ready for and anticipating. And that's okay. You sort of just have to like allow that movement and pressure to carry you to whatever is coming next. So hopefully that's helpful to anybody who's maybe just starting their law school journey or in their second semester and feeling like they're underwater again. Just know that the river is like carrying you to the same place where you're headed. And so don't push against it. Go with the current. I guess that's what I'm trying to get at, is go with the current. Let it propel you forward instead of pushing against it and fighting the current and just struggling with that current. Let the current move you forward and find ways to stay above water. So we're going to talk about 6 key ways that highly successful and just generally organized people stay that way. They stay organized. So just obviously, we're all aware law school is a challenging time and it's really easy to get overwhelmed and fall behind. However, staying organized on the front end can really help you stay on top of everything and ultimately reduce your stress levels. And that's just great for everyone. So in this episode, we're going to talk about some tips and tricks for staying organized when things feel a little bit chaotic, but you can hold on to that thread of, I know that I'm organized because I have this plan. I spent the time figuring out how I was going to manage all of this so I can trust that system. What I have for you today is 6 key ways to stay organized while you're stressed and while life is coming at you fast. The first one, if you've listened to any of my podcasts by now, you know that I am a to-do list gal. So one of the key habits that highly successful people have is making to-do lists. So writing down all the things that need to be done. And that can help you prioritize your tasks and make sure you don't forget anything. But more importantly, what I find is that writing things down helps me to focus on the task at hand instead of feeling all jumbly inside. And it sort of declutters your mind. I have also been known to do something and then add it to my to-do list in order to cross it off and get that exciting feeling of like, yahoo, I've gotten something done on my to-do list. Okay, so that's it. That's step 1. The first thing is so easy. It's something that you can literally do in 2 minutes. I tried to, the night before my day, I try to get a list going of everything that needs to be done the next day. I also like to do that for the week just to kind of track out where I plan to do different tasks. So I have like a Monday through Friday list that I just start tacking assignments onto each day. And it can be little things like today I had to order a replacement screen protector for my iPhone because I got a new phone and so I needed a new screen protector. So it's little things like that. It's not necessarily just the, complete this assignment or do this big reading thing. It's smaller tasks as well so that you don't forget things, you don't leave things off, you don't miss like minor deadlines, but it also gets your chaos in your mind down on paper so that you know that everything you need to do is in front of you and you're not distracted by, oh no, am I forgetting something kind of a mindset. The next thing, and it's sort of in the same vein as making a to-do list, but the next thing is using a planner. And a planner is just kind of like a hybrid, more more exciting way to have a to-do list, and it helps you to schedule your study sessions, your meetings, and other important things that you have going on, but it helps you to put it into a format where you can see each day what you'll be doing. So I like block scheduling, and I use Google Calendar to make block scheduling, and I've got, custom colors and custom calendars, so I like looking at it. I use it all day, every day, and it helps me to visualize exactly how I'm spending all my time. And as I'm going through my day, if something ends up taking longer or shorter, I modify that calendar so that when I look back, I know exactly how I was spending my time. That also helps me to plan my weeks out better because I start to realize, okay, my reading for my criminal procedure class is taking longer than I expected it to, so I need to build that time into my schedule. Or, vice versa, something is routinely taking less time, and so I'm able to modify that and add in something else or shift things around because suddenly my schedule is working out differently than what I anticipated it to. So once I figure out what my weekly schedule will look like at a baseline, then I just make each event repeat, through the functionality of the calendar until the end of the semester so that I'm not reinventing the wheel every week. Automating, oh my gosh, automating is just the key, I think, to so many things, because the more you can automate and make things less effort, the better you are at sticking to that schedule and sticking to what you need to do. Also in the calendar, you can set reminders for important deadlines and events to stay on track and never miss an event again. An example of that is that I'm a research assistant for one of my professors, and my time, I have to manage my time and put it into a portal. My time is due every Tuesday, or it's every other Tuesday. And so I've got a repeating task in my Google Calendar that says submit time. And so I don't have to remember every week to submit time. You can also do that for things that are looming, like paying rent or paying certain bills, whatever it is, calling your mom. You can input those in a way that it repeats. And so then you're not having to remember these tasks that you do regularly in your brain. You're able to put that down somewhere and it's going to prompt you to do it. The third thing on my list here is to take breaks. So yes, have a plan. Yes, be super proactive about what you're doing, but also take breaks. It's crucial when you're feeling overwhelmed or stressed. Even though it sort of feels counterintuitive to take time away from your to-do list, it does help you to keep your stamina and focus on the tasks as you complete them. So when you start to feel your mental focus is failing, your brain, is basically turning off, and you find yourself like, oh, I read a sentence and I don't actually know what I'm reading, that might be your brain's way of asking for a break. And I promise your stamina will increase. Man, by the middle of each semester, I could sit and read for an hour straight without getting distracted, which for me, that feels really important. But right now, it's the beginning of the semester. We're coming off of summer. Maybe this is your first year of law school and you've got mounds and mounds of reading and you're like, how can I even focus on all of this? I can't get through 20 minutes without my brain going somewhere else. It's going to increase. It will increase with hard work. And as you go and push yourself to read longer and longer, you will be able to do that. It takes time. And it's harder, and initially you have to take more frequent breaks because your brain truly needs it. And that's okay. I mean, that just means it's taking a little bit longer to finish my class readings right now than what I would like it to be, but that's to be expected. And I also don't know my professors yet, so I don't really know what they think is important. what I can sort of gloss over versus what I really need to focus on. And I got cold called this week. I was the first one to get cold called in my criminal procedure class, and it was totally fine, but it was a little bit daunting because, of course, I had done the reading, I had read the case, I had, really contemplated it, I felt prepared for class. But as soon as she starts asking me questions, I'm thinking, oh my gosh, did I read this case? But I did. And, she was great about sort of walking me through what she was looking for. But after the class, my friends and I were talking about it and realized that she was asking questions in a way that we weren't really asked questions last year. And that's fine. I mean, they were perfectly valid questions, but it was just a different approach to reading the cases. And so I just have to adjust the way that I prepare for that class. And that's totally normal. And I felt, fine about my cold call and, all of that to say you have to adjust and you have to give yourself that grace and that space in order to get to where you want to be. And you may not be there yet, and that's okay. So anyways, taking breaks, doing something else, you can recharge your batteries and then come back with a fresher energy. And it also, I find, protects your work time and your workspace and makes you learn in your body or your mind or whatever that when you're sitting down to work, you mean business. And you can use your break to take a walk and meditate or, do any other kind of an activity that helps you to relax and rejuvenate. But when you come back to your desk, okay, it's go time now. It's time to really work. So far, we've got make a to-do list, and then an extension of that is use a planner, and then take breaks. And then speaking of breaks, the fourth one is to break tasks down into smaller, manageable chunks. So law school can be incredibly demanding, and it's easy to feel overwhelmed by the amount of work, just the sheer volume of work that needs to be done. You'll look at your reading assignments and feel like you're about to climb a mountain because it is so much reading. It is so much reading. However, by breaking down the tasks into smaller, more manageable chunks, right? So if someone hands you a law casebook, they're like thousands of pages, and they said, hey, read this by the end of the semester. That feels overwhelming because it is so much volume that you can't even quite grasp what that looks like. You would just start reading and reading and reading, and you would feel like you're never going to finish. But if you break it down, which is what the professors do in the syllabus, they break it down into sections and into parts that you have to read by certain dates. So take that mindset and translate it into other kinds of goals or tasks that you have to do. Take reading 1,000 pages of a book and break it down into, okay, over 15 weeks, so over 30 classes, how much do I need to read per class? That feels more manageable. Yes, it's still a lot, but it's not the same as saying, hey, read thousands of pages. So it can make the workload seem less daunting or just at least achievable. So instead of trying to tackle everything at once, set achievable goals for each study session. And start with the most important tasks, and work your way down, or start with the smaller ones that you can knock out right away. I feel like everybody has a different approach to how they want to tackle a to-do list. Some people need that dopamine hit of crossing something off their list. And some people want to hit the hardest thing first so that after that it's downhill. Whatever works for you. But if you've got a massive reading assignment or some project or, paper that you have to write that feels really big and massive, break it into smaller chunks. So, a large reading assignment, give yourself a break after X number of pages every time or X number of minutes, whatever it is. But just do something to be able to make steady progress, avoid procrastination, and make it feel manageable. Make it feel like, okay, this is something that I can do. And if I can do this once, I can do it twice, I can do it 5 times, then I'm at the end of my 100-page reading assignment, whatever it is. So that's number 4. Break things down into smaller, manageable chunks. Number 5 is to create a study group. Not required by any means, but, law school can be kind of an isolating space. Studying alone and having to do a lot of individual work can be kind of lonely. But creating a study group can kind of fix that while also having some other benefits. So a study group can, for one, help you stay organized and motivated, because if someone else is counting on you to be prepared to have a conversation about your topic that you're learning about, that can be really motivating to finish your work and get caught up on your outlining. when you study with other people, it kind of holds you to what your schedule is. You can also bounce ideas off of each other. You can share notes. You can, sort of have this group mentality instead of it feeling so isolating and alone. Some people say that with study groups, they'll like divide up the workload and have certain people write certain parts of the outline. I don't subscribe to that. I don't recommend having the work split up that way, because doing your own outline is really important to mastering the work. Reading someone else's summary of a case is not the same as reading it yourself. And so in the same way, creating sort of a summary of the topic that you're learning, that's part of your learning experience, and being able to articulate it yourself is a huge piece of that. If you use someone else's outline, then you're sort of shortchanging yourself. Now, I would recommend getting help from people and comparing your outlines. This is really helpful because sometimes your notes have a hole in them and you're missing key things, or vice versa. So it's a great benefit to having a study group is that you can say like, here's everything we talked about in all these classes, and someone will be like, whoa, wait a second, I don't have that in my notes. And so you can kind of help each other. That's super helpful. But when it comes to outlining, I really recommend doing it all yourself. You can use a different outline to sort of get the generic outline, to get sort of what should I have in here, but make sure you're doing the work yourself, because that's a big piece of grasping all of the concepts and figuring out how they sort of puzzle piece together. Okay, that's a lot about study groups, but on the whole, the basic is that it can make studying more enjoyable, less daunting, and it's just more fun. It's just more fun that way, in my opinion. But, some people really have to be on their own and like grasp it on their own. So during your study sessions, if you do have a group or you spend time working with other people to create your outline, finish your outlines, whatever, make sure, last thing I promise about study groups, make sure that you are on task, because it can be really fun and it can be really social, but you kind of need to focus and make sure that you are on task. So use the time to review, quiz each other, work on practice problems together, hold yourself accountable, but also be focused and on task. You do not want to dilly-dally until the end of the semester and then feel overwhelmed by not having any of your outline done yet. All of my professors have really recommended that you finish your outline on the last day of class, which means that it should be basically done with just needing to add in that last day. That way, you're spending your final season actually studying and mastering practice questions instead of doing your first review of the material at the end of the semester. Being in a study group is great, can help you stay organized, motivated, all of that. Just use it wisely. Okay, last one is get enough sleep. And sleep, I feel like in law school is somewhat underrated. People think, okay, I can just sprint towards the finish line. I can accomplish so much more when I stay up all night and work on this. And I love sleep. And y'all, the science is behind me on this one. Adequate sleep is essential to staying on top of your life and reducing stress and staying organized. And highly successful people give priority to their sleep and ensure that they are getting enough rest every night. And obviously, there's going to be certain seasons of our life where that isn't possible, but where you can control it and where you can really find a routine, including sleep, that works for you, like a regular bedtime, avoiding caffeine before bed. I like to take melatonin if I'm feeling particularly antsy and not tired. People like to meditate before bed to sort of get like in that headspace, but whatever you can do to get enough and to get quality sleep is going to help you a lot. The, undergrad vibe of pulling all-nighters and being able to do that, honestly, I don't know that works in law school, just because it is so rigorous that you really have to be on and you have to be able to contribute meaningfully in class, and you need to be able to really absorb what you're reading, and your brain just plainly can't do that if it's exhausted. So get enough sleep. I promise it should be a priority for you. It's really been helpful for me to get quality sleep. Okay, that is what I have for this week. So 6 key ways to stay organized while you're stressed and while life is coming at you, and everything seems to be happening all at once, make a to-do list, use a planner, take meaningful breaks, also break down tasks into small, manageable chunks, create a study group if you want or not, and get enough sleep. Well, that's all that I have for this week. Thank you so much for listening. This is Legaltini, your very own sip of law school.